Hello, everyone,
and welcome to the District School Board of Niagara's Kindergarten Live Q&A. Thank you to everyone who has taken the time to join us tonight, parents, grandparents, guardians,
and anyone else who's tuned in to learn about kindergarten at the DSBN. We are very happy to have you here. My name is Carolyn LeConte. I'm the Communications Officer at the DSBN, and I will be your moderator for our Q&A tonight. But before we begin, we would like to start with an Indigenous land acknowledgement.
We begin this gathering by acknowledging the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and acknowledging reminds us that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of Indigenous people.
Well, as I said before, we are really happy to have you all here tonight. So before we go any further, the first thing that we want to address is that we know being online is not the ideal way to be introduced to kindergarten. And trust me when I say that we would have loved nothing more than to have all of you visit your future home schools in person for an open house. But unfortunately, the reality is that we're still in this pandemic, and we truly thank you all for being here and helping us make the best of things. So on this note, we do want you all to know that we are staying hopeful. We're always staying positive, and we're hopeful that you will get an opportunity later this year, before September, to visit your home school. Now, we can't confirm this yet, and we will have to see how things go, as we have been for the last couple of years, but we are certainly not ruling it out. So please stay tuned for some updates on that in the next few months. But for now and for tonight, we do have 3 genuinely awesome kindergarten staff members on standby who are here to answer your questions. We know this is a really big step for you and your little one. So before our kindergarten staff start to answer your questions, here's a quick video to get started and to introduce you to kindergarten at the DSBN.
In the kindergarten program, we see every child as being special and being unique. Every child is competent, is capable, curious, and ready to learn. In every class, you'll see a teacher and an early childhood educator, and it's hard to tell them apart. They work together to co-plan, co-teach, and we document student learning as it unfolds together. When you look around the class, you'll feel a sense of home, and the classroom we see as being the third teacher. When children walk in and when adults walk in, we feel calm and relaxed, and this affects how people learn. And as the day goes on, you'll notice that we take pictures with iPads and take videos, and we share this with parents about the learning, and we share this with the children so they can talk about their learning and extend it in the classroom. Play is so important in kindergarten. We see play as a vehicle for learning. Children communicate what they know in so many different ways, from the structures they build in the block center, to the paintings they make, the dramatizations in the house center, all the way to figures they make out of clay. And it's up to us to really listen to what they're trying to tell us and communicate with their learning. Many parents ask what happens in a kindergarten day. You'll often hear us calling it the flow of day. We really value large blocks of play where children can get deep in their learning. It allows the educators to play with children in small groups, teach them to write their names, play some challenging math games with them. One question that parents usually have about school is, how can I prepare my child? And one great idea is you can design a learning space in your house, a place that has paper, scissors, glue, tape, anything they can access at any time. And it really fosters an environment of creativity. Another great way is to visit the Early Years Center or the Parent-Family Literacy Centers in your neighborhood. They have a kindergarten-like environment where they can go and practice social skills and take those new skills back to kindergarten into the classroom.
Okay. So now we want to quickly show everyone what a typical kindergarten classroom looks like at the DSBN. Here we are. So when the kids are in here, the kindergarten environment is truly a place filled with wonder, curiosity, and excitement. We have a teacher and a designated early childhood educator for every kindergarten classroom at the DSBN, and together they thoughtfully create classrooms like the one you're seeing here. And they make a variety of learning tools available to encourage children to explore their interests, to collaborate, to ask questions, and we know they have a lot of those, and communicate their learning in so many different ways. So this classroom is just one example, and when you do get a chance to see your future classroom, you will see that each one is created completely uniquely by the educators to meet the needs and interests of the student in their class. Your kids will find joy when they build with blocks and exploring loose parts, when they experiment with paints and materials, or when they're in a space like this and they find a cozy space to look at a book with a friend. And of course, they'll be sparking their imaginations when they play. In these play-based experiences, literacy and math opportunities are woven in through play in large groups and small groups, hands-on games, and their routines. So many of you who signed up have probably visited our kindergarten website this year, but for those who signed up through social media or elsewhere for the event, we're going to quickly show you where you can go to look at this virtual classroom tour again on your own time if you'd like to. When you go to dsbn.org/kindergarten, you scroll down just a bit past our adorable Barclays where he's waving and in his amazing little safety vest. And below that, there are links to the video we just showed you on the left side of the screen. And on the right, the Explore Classroom link is what will take you to the virtual tour. And for those who haven't visited, there's lots of other information on this website as well, like childcare options, how to find your home school, and when you're ready, you can register your child fully online for a September start. You can just go to this website and click on any of the pink registration buttons, and that will take you right to the online registration form here. Okay, we are ready to go. So we're here, like we said, to answer the many questions that you have that are more general to kindergarten at the DSBN. We have almost 600 of you who registered and who are here tonight. So we are going to start with some of the most common questions that you submitted when you registered, and then we'll be answering the other ones that came up as well, and then ones that come in live. Our staff are ready, and we have so much information to share with you. But of course, we know that lots of you have questions about your own home school specifically. Every school is unique at the DSBN, so please just know that you can always connect with your home school directly at any time by calling or emailing the school. They will answer your specific questions best. So questions like this, for example, would be if you're wondering where the cubbies are located in your school's classroom, or you want to know what the play facilities are like at your school for kindergarten. Those are the kinds of questions that you can contact your home school at any time about. Now, without further ado, let's introduce our fabulous staff who are answering questions tonight. So first we have Lisa MacKay. Lisa is one of our designated early childhood educators. And I'm thinking that we have some Schitt's Creek fans out there. So you might recognize her from the show. I'm looking at her right now. You might recognize her from the show because she's been in a handful of episodes. So Lisa, thank you for battling the paparazzi to join us tonight. We're really happy to have you here. And next we have Melanie Sendzik. So Melanie is one of our student achievement leaders here at the DSBN. She's a system principal as well, and she supports with curriculum. And Melanie has done so much great work on the kindergarten curriculum specifically here. And last, but certainly not least, we have Kristy Penlington. So you probably recognize her from the video we just played. So Kristy is a kindergarten teacher as well as an early years consultant. Welcome everyone, and let's get started. So Lisa, Melanie, and Kristy will be answering questions live on camera, but just so everyone knows, we also have other staff members who are here with us tonight, and they'll be answering questions in the live chat sidebar. So, and we want you to know as well that if we don't get to your question live tonight, like if Kristy, Melanie, or Lisa aren't able to answer it, or we don't get to it in the chat, then we're either going to post them on the website on an FAQ page, or depending on what the question is, we will email you directly as well. Okay, so our first question, and this was a very popular one, and it is, what does a typical day in kindergarten look like? So Kristy, I'm going to send this one over to you.
Thanks. This is such a common question that we hear all the time. What do they learn in kindergarten, right? So we call it often a flow of day. So instead of having times of the day that are for different subjects, in kindergarten we have a flow. So every class and every school will have a different flow depending on the students in their class to meet their needs and their interests and their strengths of the children in there. So it should look different all around, but they consist of similar parts of the day. So we know that play is such an important part of the kindergarten program. So there are large chunks of play throughout the day, both inside and outside every single day. And we know that when they're playing in the classroom, there's the block center and a drama area and different sensory experiences. They may have an art studio or a cozy corner or a place to play with magnetic letters and learn their names. So the play is so, so important, a chance for the educators to come and learn with the children and extend their learning and ask them great questions. So there'll be big parts of the day with play. There's also lots of small group opportunities and whole group lessons that are short, just to teach them some more, literacy and math concepts throughout the day. There's also a snack and a lunchtime too. So they have at least 2 times a day to eat, but usually a snack in the morning and a lunch in the afternoon or in the midday. And there's also a chance to visit the school library, which is a real wonderful place with lots of books. And if your child likes to look at books, they will get to take one home and look through it by themselves or read it to their favorite stuffy or look at books with you too. So they love borrowing books and bringing them home. There's also the gym too that they get to go to and learn how to use different equipments like hula hoops and skipping ropes and balls. So it's an exciting day that's packed, and they always have lots of fun. And I know some parents out there, a common question I would get to, what are the school hours? And you could, you'll get that information as school gets closer to starting. You'll find out when school starts and when it finishes for the day. And you can also go on the school website to find that information as well. So yeah, those are part of our day.
Thank you, Kristy. It sounds like a busy day. So hopefully when the kids get home, they're going to be ready to sleep, right? So our next big question, and Kristy, I'm going to stay on you for this one. It is, what do children learn in kindergarten?
Thanks. That again is another big question. We follow the Ontario Kindergarten Program. So that's available online if you wanted to look at it, at the details of what that is. But it tells us how students learn and what they learn over the course of 2 years. So it is a play-based and an inquiry-based program. We know those are the vehicles for learning. It's developmentally appropriate for them. They love to be on their hands and knees and building and constructing and experimenting. So it's a program that really complements where they are developmentally. So they're going to learn literacy and math and self-regulation and many, many more things through hands-on playful experiences. So the kindergarten program is broken into 4 broad learning areas, and we call those the 4 frames. So the first frame is called belonging and contributing, and this is where students are going to learn how to communicate, what makes a good friend. They learn about the importance of developing relationships with each other and taking on different perspectives and building empathy and learning what's fair and not fair. There's also another frame called self-regulation and well-being, and that's when they learn about emotions and feelings, and they learn to read their own bodies and what they need if they need a rest or have a snack or to get a drink, and learn how to adapt to different situations throughout the day and throughout their lives too. There's also demonstrating literacy and math behaviors frame. So behaviors, again, is their acting and their behaviors through play. So there's print-rich environments around them where they're going to be encountering books and signs and labels. They're going to be writing in very authentic ways throughout the day. There'll be clipboards and paper available for them to write and draw all day long, and in small groups too. And we also, we call it mathematizing the environment. So they bump into math throughout their day, whether it be routines, and you could sometimes, I know I've done this with my class. How do we figure out how many students are away today? How are we going to do that? How do we keep track of that? Can you help me? And let's create that routine together. Or the block center is kind of messy. What's a way we can sort them and look at the different shapes and sizes of the blocks and bring in that math talk into that as well? So we mathematize the environment, and we talk about patterns and sorting and shapes and counting, and numbers are everywhere. So the last frame is problem solving and innovating. And we know that Children are naturally curious. They ask questions all the time. I know my own kids are, why? What's this? What's that? And so we encourage them to be natural researchers and try to find answers to their own questions. And they take on that role of a researcher, and we discover together and come up with answers together too. And there's lots of chances for them to be inventors and go to the art studio and make creation and props for their play and problem solve through many playful challenges. So the day is packed. We learn lots. But I tell you, it's a fun time.
Amazing. Thank you, Kristy. Maybe I can stop by to your class one of these days because it sounds like fun. Lots of you here tonight have registered, but we do have families who haven't registered yet. And you're wondering, how old does my child have to be to register for kindergarten? Do they have to be born in 2023 or 2022? So Lisa, I'm going to throw this one over to you.
All right, thanks, Carolyn. So your child's kindergarten journey starts when they turn 4, so the year that they turn 4. So for this year for kindergarten, for junior kindergarten, they would be born in 2018 to start their journey and turning 4 by December 31st of this year. If your child is 5 and has not yet registered for kindergarten, they can as well register this year as well, but they will be in senior kindergarten. So if they're turning 5, they'll be registering for senior kindergarten, and if they're turning 4 this year, they'll be registering for junior kindergarten.
Perfect. Thank you, Lisa. So we did have some people ask if their child was born in 2019, if their child can start kindergarten this year. No, they can't. They have to be 4, as Lisa said. So next year around this time, around January is when we start sharing our kindergarten registration information. So please come back to our website and we'll have that all ready for you next year. All right, so moving on to our 4th question. This was also an extremely popular one. We had almost 100 of you ask this question, and it is, what can I do to prepare my child for their first day and for being in kindergarten? So Kristy, I'm going to pass this one to you again, as well as our kindergarten teacher here.
Thanks. And I know as a parent myself too, as summer approaches and school is around the corner, you think, what could I do to set them up for success and to be happy and ready for school? So one of the ways you can start is, if you haven't had a chance, and I have the book right here too, if you haven't read Barkley's First Day yet, and I know this is available on the DSBN website, you have to give it a read with your child. It is such a lovely story, and we know Barkley is our little mascot for kindergarten, and the story's about him going into his home for the first time, and he's nervous and he's feeling a little anxious, and in the end he's happy and enjoys the experience of making new friends in his family. And so kids can relate to those feelings, and it's a great entry point to having conversations with your child. And in the back of the book, there's also conversation starters and activities you can do together just to start talking about school, what it's like, and getting them used to that idea. And we also know that oral language is so important to young children, and it sets a foundation to early literacy development. So conversations and talking is so important. Like, talk together, tell stories, sing songs, ask questions, always ask them to tell you more. And when they're playing and they're building things, get them to describe it to you and feel comfortable with sharing their ideas, because they'll do that lots in kindergarten too, that have to share what they've created and celebrate that. Also, social skills are really important too when you're entering a classroom with more children. So if you get a chance to play with some other children, it helps with your social skills, just learning how to take turns and problem solve and being able to take on different perspectives and work through situations together. So if you get a chance to, mingle with some other children, that's a good way to start, get ready for school. Also, reading together or even telling stories, it sets a love for learning. And if you can, read a book together here and then when you can, and talk about what the story was about and let them pick their favorite story, it makes them feel like they're becoming readers. And there's also, like, talking about reading, if you look around your community and even in your cupboards, there's environmental print all around us. You might notice signs on restaurants down the road or stores that you may visit, or packaging inside your cupboard, the snacks they eat every day. Talk about that. Ask them, what does that say? What do you think that says? Maybe they'll recognize Tim Hortons on a box or goldfish on a bag, and clap and say you're reading, because that's one of the earliest stages of reading, is recognizing familiar signs and logos. And I know we'll do that in the class too, bring in different things that they may be familiar with. And also, when it comes to writing, you may notice them mimicking what you're doing. If you're making a shopping list, maybe they're scribbling on paper and they're starting to imitate what you're doing and making squiggles. And that is actually the first step of writing. It's a very natural stage, and another one to celebrate and encourage. So you can find all the scrap paper you can out of the recycling can, get them to write and just explore and make those squiggles and make those shapes, because that's the early stages of writing. And for math too, if you're out on a neighborhood walk, look for numbers, and even look around the room you're in right now. Do you see any shapes? Do you see any patterns? Having those conversations that math is all around us, everywhere, all around us, and getting them to notice and see that, because we do a lot of notice and wondering in school too about math. So you may bump into that. And also, like independence too. I know parents ask, like, what do they need to know independence-wise when they come to school? But even if you just talk about containers and do you know how to open this, get them familiar with it, or your zippers, and start talking about that, getting them to do things on their own, or sweeping up the crumbs under the table, and getting them to help out with those daily routines, they'll start to feel independent and ready to start school. So those are some pointers that you could take for, as you get ready for September.
I would say that was more than just some, Kristy. That was so much great advice. I'm sure a lot of parents out there are loving all that feedback. And one part that Kristy, I'm going to give you a little bit of a break, and I'm going to send this one over to Lisa. So another popular question that came in that's related to that, the one you just answered, Kristy, is if my child is not toilet trained, can they go to kindergarten? And do you help kids use the restroom? So Lisa, I'm going to pass that over to you.
Sure. Thank you for that question. And that's, I think, a lot of parents worry about that question. And the answer is yes. Of course, they can still come. They're welcome to come to kindergarten, even if they're not, they're going through toilet training right now. Toileting can be a challenge for a brief period of time at the start of kindergarten, and it's okay. Rest assured that educators will be supportive and can provide assistance as they become more comfortable with their environment and their flow of the day and things like that. So if you ever have any questions or anything, always reach out to your child's educators. But yes, they will definitely support them through that process, for sure.
Another thing to put, I'm sure, lots of parents' minds at ease. Thank you, Lisa. So we're going to one of our next most popular questions, and it was, will I be able to visit the school and meet the teachers? So we addressed this a little bit at the top, but for those of you who are joining, actually, I'll remind everyone who's just joining that we have Melanie Sendzik, who is with us tonight, Lisa MacKay, and Kristy, and we are just answering some of the most common questions that came in. So this next question was, will I be able to visit the school and meet the teachers? So Melanie, I'm going to throw that over to you.
Good evening, everybody. Please know we are so excited to see you and meet you in person. There's nothing we want more than to have you inside our schools so that you can get familiar not only with the space, but more importantly with the people in that space. At this time, as you are aware, we are restricted by COVID protocols. However, we are going to do our very best, if the protocols permit, to invite you to the school sometime in the spring to become familiar with your surroundings and the staff. And believe me, the staff cannot wait to meet you and the little people who will be joining you.
Thank you so much, Melanie. And yes, to echo that, we can't wait to have you. So we really hope we do. So just keep checking our website and our social media channels, and we'll remind everyone again at the end to let you know what our channels are and things like that, where you can get that update. So the next most popular question we had was, what things does my child need to bring to school? So this could be for the first day and every day after that. So Lisa, I'm going to pass this one over to you.
Okay, thanks, Carolyn. So the short answer is bring their imagination, and their curiosity, which they already have. So that's perfect. That's the short answer. But the practical answer too is your child's school might have some suggested items that you might want to pack with your child. So things like a backpack to carry things in, some indoor shoes like running shoes for inside the classroom, a water bottle, and they can refill it throughout the day if they need to, as well as a nut-free snack and lunch. And some spare clothing, because we do like to have messy fun in kindergarten. So it's always nice to have a little extra spare clothes in their cubbies just to change into in case they spill the paint or, things like that happen. And as well, outdoor clothing as well. So we do go outside for outdoor learning in kindergarten every day in all types of weather too. So just having appropriate outdoor clothing for the weather is also just a good idea to have. And just a little tip to label those items if you can with your child's first and last name, because there's some children that have the same first name and they can get mixed up. So if you can label them first and last name, then it's easier to locate and also to be returned.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. And as we get closer to the first day of kindergarten, you're either just a reminder that either your school or your teacher will be reaching out to you with a more specific list later on as we get closer. And I'd like to just give a reminder to everyone for the Q&A being answered by staff in the background. So not the questions that Kristy, Melanie, and Lisa are answering, but the ones that our other kindergarten staff are answering in the background. If you can't see it, at the top of your screen, there's a little speech bubble with a question mark. If you click that, that'll take you to the Q&A on the side, the chat sidebar. Okay, so this next question is from Stephanie in Grimsby. And Stephanie, you asked, how will my child adjust to being in school? And how will they be supported? So Lisa, I actually think this is a good one for you too, so I'm going to hand it over to you.
Sure, no problem. And thank you for that question. That's something that myself as a parent, I wondered about when my kids started school. So, and all kids do adjust differently to kindergarten, but the kindergarten educators are understanding and they do value developing relationships with the child and the family as well. So there are some children that are a little unsure at first about kindergarten, but when they see their friends, when they start making friends, they see other kids in the room, they see their environment, they get more and more comfortable each day. I had a little girl in my class that actually first day of school, a little bit of tears on drop off. And then at the end of the day at pickup, there was a few more tears because she did not want to go home yet. She wanted to stay. So, rest assured that they get more comfortable each day and they'll come home excited, telling you what they learned and wanting to go back the next day too. But if you're ever worried about like your child's adjustment or anything, just share with the educators in the classroom and they can support you with that transition.
That's such a sweet story, Lisa. I'm sure that happens all the time too, right? So they're crying for different reasons at the top and the bottom of the day. That's great. So this next question is about busing, and it's from Cassandra in Niagara Falls. So Cassandra, you asked, and a few others asked this as well, but Cassandra, you asked, can my child ride the bus to school? And then a related question was asked from Derek in Niagara-on-the-Lake. And Derek, you asked if busing was available, how it works, and where do I get information about it? So Melanie, I think that you can answer this question really well. I think I'll pass it to you.
Absolutely. So of course, busing is available in kindergarten. We have a minimum distance of 800 meters from the home school, and busing will be provided. You will receive all of those updates from our consortium called NSTS. And Carolyn, if we could make sure that that website gets posted in the chat, certainly you can visit nsts.ca for any updates. In a case where today we had the weather that we did, that would be the site where you could easily visit to get updates on your route or any busing information. But certainly your home school, once your home address has been shared with the school, they'll help you navigate that process and ensure that your little one is on the bus roster for pickup in September.
Perfect. Thank you, Melanie. Yes, so the Niagara Student Transportation Service, they actually handle all of our transportation, or most of our transportation at the DSBN. So we'll make sure someone puts that link into the chat. And it's also on our website, the kindergarten website, so dsbn.org/kindergarten, and you'll be able to link to their site and find all that information there too. So our next question, it came from Jolene in Thorold. And Jolene, you asked an important question that I think a lot of parents are interested in. And that is, what are the entry and the dismissal routines at DSBN schools like? So again, every school is unique, but I'm going to throw it to Melanie to give you the overview of what usually happens.
Okay, well, the first thing that's really important to know is the children will likely learn the routines before all of the adults. There's nothing more fun than when a family member who maybe it's a grandparent who drops off or picks up, and it's awesome to hear the kids say, "Grandma, that's not how you do it." So the kids learn pick up and drop off routines very quickly. Rest assured that whether your child is arriving by bus or on foot or through a car, there are all routines set, and the thing that's really important to know is it's always supervised by staff. A lot of us like to wear our bright orange vests, so we're highly visible in the schoolyard. And when we are able to have you in person, or we send maps home so that you're very familiar with where in the schoolyard is kindergarten drop-off, and the buses are all met with staff members as well. So students are, taken off the bus, brought over to the meeting space where staff meet you, and then it's a similar process at the end of the day. The kids are really systematic and understand the routines of getting their cubbies, collecting all their belongings, and then they are more or less dismissed one by one if they're heading out on foot with a family member, or they are taken to the bus location with a DSBN staff member. And just so you know, all of our fabulous bus drivers are always checking those seats at the end of the day to make sure everybody has got off at the right stop.
Fantastic. Thank you, Melanie. And we just want to remind everyone on that note that if you do have specific questions for your homeschool, then you can contact them at any time. You can call them or you can email them before your first day, and they can answer those questions. And tonight we are answering your general questions about the DSBN and about the kindergarten program. So just remember that you can contact your school at any time. And again, another reminder that our Q&A is still happening where other staff are answering some other questions. Okay, so this next question, it came from Katie in Port Colborne. And Katie, you asked, how will I know what my child is doing in school? And then someone else asked, so Rory from Thorold, you asked, what kind of communication will we get with the teacher and how will we get that communication? So Kristy, I'm gonna throw that over to you.
Thanks. Another great question. I always wonder this too, because when I sent my son to school, I'd ask him at the end of the day, so what did you do today? And he'd say, oh, nothing. So I know what you mean. So there's many, many ways that your educators will communicate with you. And again, they'll be different from school to school, building to building, class to class. But there's a lot of informal opportunities, like quick chats when you drop them off in the morning or you pick them up after school. You could say, hey, how was their day? What'd you do today? And have those talks. I know the teacher in DC just love getting to know families just as much as the kids too. So you can have those quick conversations just to touch base each day. Also, there's nothing wrong with sending an email and checking in, or you could say, hey, are you available for a quick phone call after school on Wednesday? And they would be more than happy to chat with you and touch base too. And I know some schools will have a mailbag. You may get a mailbag with your child's name on it where there's letters to and from school and little updates in there. So you may get a mailbag. Some classes too are switching more online and they'll have a D2L website and you'd get information about that too. So that's another way that educators will share updates about what's going on at school. And we also have a more formal document that goes home throughout the year. It's called the Communication of Learning. So in the fall, you're going to get a Communication of Learning, and it just talks about what the educators notice about how your child's adjusting to school and celebrates their key growth, what they've learned, and also a little next step that they're going to continue on with your child throughout that term. So you'll get that in fall, and also we have an interview time time around that time too. So it's a time for you to formally chat about your child's progress, any questions or concerns you have in a more formal setting. So that's in the fall. And then in the winter and spring, you get another communication of learning, which is a little bit bigger, and it breaks down those 4 frames of learning. So how they're doing with belonging and contributing, self-regulation and well-being, their literacy and math behaviors, and problem solving and innovating, and talks again about what their strengths are in that and what we could do to continue their learning on. So those are more formal documents that you get throughout the year. That's kind of a snapshot, and they're fun to read and they're fun to write. I know I loved reading my kids when I got theirs. It's a good memory to keep. But there's also some additional communications that we have too, like there's translators, and there's also Swiss workers, the settlement workers in schools too, that can help families set up technology. They can help answer questions and support with that home to school communication too. If you had questions, you could surely access them through your school. So there's many, many ways that we'll communicate with you throughout the year. Don't be afraid to reach out.
I was just going to say, it sounds like there's no short, like you're all good on the communication front. Seems like they get very frequent updates. So great. That's so great. Thank you, Kristy. So our next question is about childcare. So lots of you had this one as well. It was quite popular. And it is, how does before and after school care work? And how do I register for it? So Melanie, I'm going to throw that one to you.
Well, let me start by saying that also as a mother who used before and after school childcare in my kids' school, the word of the day for this is called seamless. Experience for kids. We have 2 really sort of set up options with our community partners. Some of our childcare centers are right within our school settings. Others are very close. And when they're close, we have transportation arranged between the school and the childcare center, both before and after school. What is key to know is that these childcare centers are run by our community partners. And so registration for a childcare spot actually goes through the Niagara Region Childcare website. There is a very important list that it's important to become familiar with, and it's called the One List. It's called the One List because for the entire region, there is one list that lets the region know how many childcare spaces are desired for each school year. So as you enter into school in DSBN, it's something sort of to put on the reminder clock around this time of year to go back and express that you do require childcare, and then the region sets up opening up the spaces that are available. And if we can make sure to have the Niagara Region Childcare website posted in the chat, you can head over there as soon as we're done here tonight and put your child on the One List.
Perfect. Thank you, Melanie. And same thing with this link is that it's also on our kindergarten website. So you can just scroll down past the Barclays, and almost to the bottom, there is a section for childcare there as well. But our team they should be throwing it in the chat soon too. So our next question, and this one's from Emily in Fort Erie. And Emily, you asked, are there any accommodations for children with learning disabilities? So Melanie, can you take this one as well?
Absolutely. The brilliant thing about play-based inquiry is there's time for observing children all day. You've heard both Kristy and Lisa refer to both indoor and outdoor learning experiences. And so all day, educators are documenting student growth and student next steps. And so from those documents, we are able to collaborate as a school team. We can collaborate with other kindergarten educators on our team, but each school also has a special education team, and that team meets regularly to brainstorm and discuss strategies that are the next best steps for each child. In addition, we do have other community partners, for example, the Niagara Children's Center, for example, or Bethesda. And if your child is accessing programming from either of those community partners, we do something called preschool transition, and those involve meetings and ensuring that all the educators are aware of the students who will be joining them in the fall, so that they are able to program and be ready with strategies to help every child succeed.
Perfect. Thank you, Melanie. And I'm just going to keep you on the hot seat for one more second, because as our system principal, I think you're going to answer this next question really well. And we knew this one was coming. It's about COVID. So with everything going on right now with COVID, how will my school keep my child safe? And what will kindergarten look like with COVID this September? So Melanie, I'm going to let you take it away.
The staff with whom I work, I tease them all the time about this year in particular, and I say our little motto is Gumby, the little green flexible guy, because as we're all aware, things are changing all the time and we are flexible. And on that note, what we do want to say is this coming September, we are really hoping that the COVID protocols that we have in place right now have shifted, have been reduced, but we take our guidance from Niagara Public Health, of course. So one of the things that is essential to know about DSBN staff is student safety is our first priority. So we have teams of educators and support staff who are ensuring that the environment is well taken care of. We have sanitizing. We have, students, when we talked about those routines earlier, that we are incredulous at the ability for students to follow some of the new routines that we've had to put in place, whether it be distancing or hand washing or sanitizing. And again, the kids have just been so very fantastic about that. This coming September, we're not quite sure what we have in place, but the brilliant thing about kindergarten is we have year 1 and year 2 students in the same space. And what we do notice is the returning year 2 students act as models for the year 1 students. And so when the year 2 students sort of say, oh, this is how we do it, or we clean our hands before we do this, just know that your little one is going to fall right into those routines, and we'll be sure to keep them safe.
Awesome. Thank you, Melanie. And just to echo what Melanie said, we are always following the provincial restrictions. And as everyone here knows, everything is so fluid these days. It's always changing. So when it comes to kindergarten in September, that's a little tough to answer right now, but we will be keeping you updated throughout the summer, and especially you will be ready to go for your first day. So this next question is from Janice in Beamsville. And Janice, you asked, is kindergarten a half day or is it a full day? And is half day an option? So Lisa, I'm going to give this one to you.
Sure, thank you. And thank you for that question. Yes, our kindergarten program is a full day, a wonderful full day program. It started rolling out in 2010, and the educators, as well as the children, the educators really love spending more time with your child and just building classroom community. There's more time for that now, and as well as revisiting the learning from the morning. So if they're outside on the playground, they're looking for bugs and things like that. They go inside, they're drawing what they found. Then after lunch and in the afternoon, we can always revisit what they found in the morning or what excited them, and then they can come and share that with their friends or at circle time and things like that. So it's just really nice that we have a full day with them. Like Kristy was saying, with all those things in a typical day, it's just wonderful that we have all day with them. But we do know that some children, they might have a little more time adjusting and things like that. So if a family is ever concerned about the length of the day for their child, they can always talk to their homeschool principal, discuss their needs, and then ways to smooth that transition for them. But we do know that in our experience anyway, even our youngest learners, they do adapt quite fast to the full day of learning. And even if they, went home at lunchtime or that kind of thing, soon they do not want to do that anymore, and they want to stay with their friends and continue learning or building in the block center. They do not want to be interrupted. So it is a full day program, but always talk to your homeschool principal if there's anything you want to discuss.
Yes, awesome. That is an excellent reminder, Lisa, that you can reach out to your principal or your teacher when the time comes for any concerns regarding your child's specific needs or their learning in the classroom. So our next question comes from Zena in St. Catharines. And Zena, you asked, how many kids will be in my child's classroom? So again, this is different with every single school, but we do have a high level answer to give. So Melanie, I'm going to throw that one over to you.
Thanks, Carolyn. And absolutely, just like Carolyn said, it really depends. As you know, I don't know if you get a chance to drive around our region, but we have different places in the region where when you drive there, all you see are homes being built and things like that. So registration is going to really depend on the area and the specific neighborhood sometimes. But the way that we staff a kindergarten classroom is really with a guideline of a 15 children to 1 adult ratio or lower. We've talked about the fact that there are usually 2 adults in the room with a teacher and an early childhood educator. So that's really going to depend. But as the registration process unfolds, your homeschool principal is going to have a better sense, certainly mid-June, end of June, a fairly decent sense on class size, and you're welcome to reach out at that time.
Awesome. Thank you, Melanie. And Melanie, I actually think that this next question is perfect for you as well. So this one's from Lillian in Niagara Falls, and it's about French immersion. So Lillian asked if we offer French immersion options for kindergarten students.
Thanks, Lillian. In DSBN, our kindergarten program is offered English language programming, and our belief in DSBN is that building that strong foundation in the English language over the 20 months of the kindergarten program is a great way to prepare yourself for grade 1 entry in kindergarten. So really it is at this time of year, just a little bit earlier, where we launch our French Immersion grade 1 campaign for registration. It's very similar to this process. You can register via the website. You can also sign up for the French Immersion information nights via our websites. Hopefully next year we'll be able to have them in person. So in DSBN, our French Immersion program runs from grade 1 all the way through grade 12.
Great, thank you, Melanie. And I agree, we want that in person. We want everything in person. So we've been advocating that we think that being in person in the classroom is where we want the students to be. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to remind everyone, because we know that some people have joined in a little bit later than when we started at 6 o'clock. And that is to say that we are hopeful that we're going to have everyone in for an open house, or at least be able to see their classroom. We can't confirm anything, but we are keeping an eye on things, and it's an option. So we just want to let you know that. And okay, so our next question, and I guess this is circling back to closer to the beginning, but again, for people who have just joined, I'm going to ask Kristy this question. So Marnie from Niagara Falls, you asked, since I assume the kids are going outside, how does this work? How often do they go outside? And will anyone help my child put on outside gear? So again, Kristy, I know we talked about this a little bit, but if you don't mind just reiterating what you said earlier.
Yes, I can just feel your question, because I felt the same way with my little ones. And to tell you, my son, he's a December 31st kindergarten student, so I felt the same. Would someone be there to help him? Like, I'm letting my baby go. But yeah, we play outside every day, because it's such an important component of the program. And we know that fresh air and that sunshine and the grass on our hands, it's just great for developing a healthy mind and a healthy body. So we are outside every day and all the seasons. And even today, I looked out the window and the kindergarten kids were just loving the snow. They were having the time of their lives, and they didn't want to go home either because their parents are waiting, but they weren't going. But anyway, so we do go outside throughout the day. And again, it looks different school to school and class to class. There's scheduled times that they go out as a routine. And even with my class, when they were dropped off in the morning, they would hang their backpack up on the fence, and they would come into the little outside classroom, and we would do a story outside, and we'd have activities set up, and we did our morning routine outside. So that was just a routine that we did every day. They came dressed, ready to go. And I know other classes may go out in midday, or in the afternoon or at the end of the day, but usually a couple of times a day they do go out, and we build that routine with them and they do, like Lisa said, they get muddy. And my daughter, who is in kindergarten too, she would come home with muddy snow pants every day because they had a lake which was the puddle, and she would try to catch narwhals in the puddle. And so her snow pants had muddy knees. And, I just thought, I gave her hand-me-downs from my son, and we just thought that's a great memory for her. So be prepared to get muddy, dress proper for the seasons. It's better to be too warm and take off layers and than too chilly. And also when it comes to that independence piece, we are there to help them. Whether they can do their zipper or not on that first day, it's okay. Especially with winter season, we often have funny lessons where the kids tell us the order to get dressed and it's all mixed up and they're laughing, but it's just a great thing to do together. We learn together, and sometimes the older second year students will help the JKs out with their zippers, and they really take care of each other. So we're a community and we're there to help each other. So not to worry.
Thank you, Kristy. I think some of your advice applies to me as well, to wear the right clothes for the right seasons. Sometimes I'm trekking through the snow and wearing running shoes. So it's a good reminder for everybody. So we've had so much information tonight. Thank you, Kristy, Melanie, and Lisa. And we're not done just yet, but one thing we thought would be a really nice idea is just to go through a couple stories in the classroom, because they're always so fun and there's so much energy in there and imagination as we've been through. So I'm going to ask a couple of you, for whoever we have time for, to share a story with us from your time in the school or in the classroom. So Lisa, since I introduced you at the beginning, let's start with a story that you have. And I was thinking for your story that it would be great if you could tell us about a great experience that you had with your students, maybe an example of play-based learning, because we talked a little bit about that earlier, and it would be great to bring it to life.
Sure. So many nice memories and so many nice things that we've done with play-based learning in the classroom. But I'm trying to think, and one that stands out for me is when a little boy named Nathan brought in a cardboard box to our classroom, and he wanted to go to the art studio and create with it. And we kind of brainstormed together about what he might want to make, and he decided to make a store, and specifically an ice cream store, an ice cream shop. So he got to work. He was cutting out windows and doors and painting it and that kind of thing. And then a few more friends come over. What are you doing, Nathan? They're kind of curious as well. And he was explaining how he's making a store and that kind of thing. So it kind of spurred this curiosity of the other children wanting to make what Nathan was making. So we went and rummaged around for more cardboard boxes we could find in the school. We brought them to the classroom, and the children started to also make different stores and things. And then it became a whole classroom, almost like a project that they wanted to do. And they didn't have to do it, but they wanted to do it. And we found boxes for all of them, or they brought some in from home. And then we designed how our city would look, because Nathan thought we could make a city now that everyone had a different store or a different business that they wanted to make. So we actually sat down, we thought about different businesses that the kids know, like even restaurants. McDonald's was named, Pet Value was named, things like that. And then the kids voted on what they wanted in their city. So each child did make a store or a business, something like that. And then they were responsible for turning that box into their store or their business. Somebody even made the school that we were in, so it was a bigger box. And then they started making signs for them, so it brought in that literacy piece into the creation of the city. And we actually set up all the different boxes on the floor in the block center, and it became, as Nathan called it, Box City. So they started bringing in little blocks for people. They started bringing in animals, and that dramatic play piece came into it as well then. And then the buzz started happening around the school that there was this Box City going on in our classroom. So we started writing invitations and handing out invitations to different classes in the school to come visit our Box City. So the daycare class got our invitations, and they came over to see it. And of course, the kids were the ones giving the tour about what they had made and things like that. And even when the kids were creating their stores and their shops, Nathan was almost like the mayor of Box City. He took on the leadership role, and he was going around and helping everybody make their shops and stores and giving them suggestions and things like that. So it was a really just a meaningful project where we brought in math and literacy, problem solving skills. They're using scissor skills and things like that, but it was all done in a play-based, meaningful way for them. And it stayed for about a month in our classroom. And then at the end of it, everybody got to bring their little piece of Box City home to keep. So that's still something that when I see my former students, they talk about. So, yeah.
I think it's amazing that they remember that, number one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how old they are now, but wow. I'm sure lots of them have entrepreneurial spirit after that. Particularly Nathan, he might be a mayor in his future. What I love about that story is that it started as something so small and it evolved into something so great. So thank you for sharing that, Lisa. That's awesome. And we have time for one more. So Kristy, what about you? Can you tell us something maybe funny that happened in your class or heartwarming or maybe both, I guess, in kindergarten?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to have to leave with a heartwarming story, but I'm a little teary from Lisa, so thanks. That's good. But we had this little boy, and he was starting his first year of school, and he was a little emotional, saying goodbye to his mom, and so he's very brave and would take my hand every morning, and we'd make our way in. But then, an SK student, she said, I can hold his hand tomorrow, so she started holding his hand and walking him around the school to play each morning. But then another student joined the next day. So then there's two holding his hand. And then the next day, two more students came. And before long, our entire class made this big horizontal line. So instead of being single file following each other, we were always a horizontal line with this little, our new friend in the center. And so it made him so happy, and it made his mom cry tears of joy, like just to see how loved and truly how caring the students are in kindergarten. Like, you won't believe how caring they are. And the funny thing was, when he started his second year in SK, he saw a little girl crying at the fence and took her hand and then continued this tradition, and our class grew again. And so he brought that to help this new little girl. So they're so caring, and like I can tell you that too. You may be worried of what to expect when they enter this class with different children, but they are so thoughtful and empathetic to each other, especially those SKs come down to help their younger friends and make friends. They'll make friends so quickly. So I had to end with that story.
That's a great one. I swear I work here and I could listen to those all the time, all day, every day. But everyone, it's almost 7:00 and we are at the end of our Q&A. So thank you to everyone who's joined us tonight at home. Thank you, Lisa, Melanie, and Kristy for being here. And of course, I have to give a shout out to the amazing IT team that we have at the DSBN. They run these Microsoft Teams lives all the time and they always go so well. So thank you everyone in IT. And a reminder that for those questions who we didn't get to tonight, whether it was live or whether it was in the chat, we'll be posting them either to the kindergarten website or we will send you an email with a direct answer. So it just depends on the questions, but just rest assured that you will get an answer. But before we sign off for the night, we do have one more thing to share, and that is advice from some of our current kindergarten parents. When you signed up, we asked you to submit the questions some of which we went through tonight. And we also asked families who have their kids in kindergarten or maybe in another grade at the DSBN in the past to share their advice with us. So we're going to share what they had to say. So thank you for everyone who's still with us who shared that with us. We appreciate it. And we really think that these tips will provide some welcome guidance for families who are new to kindergarten. Okay, so we're just going to pull up the slides that we made for this here.
We're going to start with a couple easy tips described as simple, yes, but these are the ones that turn out to be really, really helpful. So Jennifer from St. Anne's suggested to buy containers that are easy to open for lunches. And Melissa from Niagara on the Lake echoed the same, saying that doing little things like that, like ensuring they can open their lunch containers and that they practice putting on and taking off their indoor shoes and their boots, was really helpful. Caitlin from Beamsville gave some really nice advice here. Caitlin said, if they can't do everything the other kids are doing, it's okay. They will learn at their own pace. Yes, absolutely. Every child is unique and learns differently. That's really great advice. Thank you, Caitlin. And Kate. So Kate is from Niagara Falls, and she said getting her child familiar with daily routines before they started school was extremely helpful for her and her family. And then we had two big ones that came up quite a bit. And the first one was knowing what to bring for the first day was really helpful. So we've covered this a little bit tonight, but a reminder that schools and teachers will be reaching out to you later in the summer to give you information specific to your school. And you can also contact your child's homeschool if you have specific questions before your first day of school at any time. And the other big one was that it was really beneficial to meet your child's teacher and see the classroom beforehand.
We absolutely agree with this. And to bring it back to what I said at the beginning, we are really hopeful that we can do an open house for you and your child so you can see the classroom and so your child can know what kindergarten might look like for them, sound like, feel like, and just so they know that it will be a fun and exciting place to go.
Now, we are always following the provincial restrictions as they change, and we'll make a decision later this year to see if we can have you in for a visit at your school. So to keep up with us on this, if you haven't already, the best place for you to get updates from DSBN about something like this is through our social media. So we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Our handles are at DSBN and at DSB Niagara. And we also post these updates on our website as well. So that's www.dsbn.org. Plus your homeschool website will be sharing this too when it comes. So please feel free to check any of those places within the next few months. And the last thing is that for those who haven't registered yet, you can just go to dsbn.org/kindergarten, click on any of the pink registration buttons and register your child online for a September start. And that's it. On behalf of Kristy, Lisa, Melanie, all the staff who have supported this event and myself, thank you to all the moms and dads, grandparents, guardians, and others who joined us tonight. We really appreciate it. And we hope you enjoy your gift from Barkley with your child, and we'll see you in September. Have a great night, everyone.